Hello, this is Christina Wilkinson, president of the Newtown Historical Society. And today we are presenting the Glendale Rewind slideshow. This presentation is sponsored by the New York City Council in cooperation with the Department of Youth and Community Development. Additional funding was provided by the Stop and Shop Giving Tag program. Okay, so most of the slides are from 1926, and this map is also from 1926. So the photos at the beginning of this series correspond to points along this map. So what was happening was in 1926, a mere 28 years after the town of Newtown became part of New York City, the city wanted to install sidewalks along Cooper Avenue in Glendale. So the section between Cypress Avenue and Cypress Hill Street was under review. So a lot of these photos are going to show sort of odd angles and close-ups of the conditions of the roadbed and the sidewalks at the time. And you'll see that there really was not much concrete in Glendale at that point. It was still very much slowly being developed. And the old street names you can see are in parentheses on this map, with the new street names, or mostly numbers, corresponding next to that. In Queens, in this part of Queens specifically, the new street names were not fully adopted until 1935. Now, Kevin, would you like to explain why we adopted the Philadelphia street numbering system?
Well, before that time, Queens County was comprised of many different municipalities and different towns that had their own street naming system and their own street numbering system. So within the borough of Queens, you had several Washington streets and several Main streets and several Elm streets. And you also had different sets of numbered streets. For example, Astoria had its own numbers, and Jackson Heights had its own numbers. Woodside had its own numbers. And it was all getting very confusing for the post office. So in the 1910s, there was the guy who was in the Queens Topographical Bureau, and I think his name was Underwood, I'm not sure. But he came up with the Philadelphia system that had the smallest numbers at the waterfront, and they got bigger as you went inland. And that held true for both east-west streets and north-south streets. Of course, in Philadelphia, you have streets that have the smallest numbers at the Delaware River. And then you go west from the Delaware River, and they get bigger from there. Well, in Queens, you began at the East River, which is on the west end of Queens and also on the north side of Queens. And the numbers got bigger as you went inland. So the smallest numbers are along the water in Astoria, Long Island City, and the biggest numbers are at the easternmost section of the borough, Little Neck, Bel Air, Floral Park, that kind of thing, Laurelton. Mm-hmm. And the smallest numbers are in the north, in Whitestone, and in the south in Ozone Park. So you had one continuous numbered system in Queens. Now this, in some neighborhoods, this tends to get very confusing in its own right, because in Maspeth, all the 60s come together in one neighborhood. So you have 60th Avenue, 60th Street, 60th Lane, 60th Place, 60th Court. And unless you're from Maspeth and you know where you're going, that can be kind of daunting if you're driving around there. But that's why Queens has one single numbered system.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we're starting our journey at Cypress Avenue and Cooper Avenue. So we're looking east along Cooper Avenue, so down the middle of Cooper. And we're standing in front of Knollwood Park Cemetery. So that's the fence you see here. And as you can see, there's a lot of automotive businesses along this stretch. It is a major intersection because Cypress Avenue continues down toward the Ridgewood Reservoir and into Brooklyn. And Cooper was actually, an old colonial road. It may even predate that. It may be an Indian path. So you can see here, a lot of cars, a nice traffic light here, a very typical intersection in Queens. Now we're going to go back to 1926. So there was no traffic signal, but there was a policeman directing traffic. Now, Kevin, you can see the lamppost there.
Okay.
That does not look like the ones we see later on. So do you know anything about that particular type of lamppost?
That's a typical telephone supported lamppost of the period. We can't see the entire lamp mass in the photo, but these sort of things were very common in New York back in the 20s, and some of them even lasted up until the 1960s. The smaller lamp on the bottom held a red glass sphere, and that simply indicated that there was a fire alarm mounted on the telephone pole.
Oh,
you can
here
see it there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I know it's probably hard for people to see what's written on the signs, but I'm going to explain what you're seeing here. So on the left here is the Evergreen Coffee House and Ice Cream Parlor. Okay, there's a sign in the window here that says funeral parties welcome. Now, we're along the cemetery belt here, so naturally, that's what you're going to see. There's a sign up here. It says lunchroom and bakery, ice cream, soda, cigarettes, and cigars are for sale there. Now we get to the other side and you're going to see this sign for Cypress Garage. And in the next series, you're going to see that much closer. So we'll pass on going further into that for now. But here is a monument works. And the sign here says that monuments are erected in all cemeteries. So I think of all of the photos in this presentation, this one right off the bat is the most dramatic change from this to that. Most of the other photos you're going to see show, you can make out a lot of what was there because it's still there, but this completely gone.
I wonder what kind of car that is. In the,
that I don't know. I would need a car expert. Okay. We will move on.
Well, look how narrow the tires were.
Yes. Well, and speaking of which, okay. So we're a little bit closer here now. Not really much to see here, but let's note the price of gas because there's going to be an interesting sign later on regarding the price of gas. Okay. And that's what it looked like back then. So this was a tire shop. It was the Cypress Garage and Tire Shop. And the ad underneath the name here, it says, Goodrich Tires, best in the land. Okay, they're selling tubes, they're selling cord tires. As an interesting looking character in the doorway. And my favorite sign here is the Fanny Frock Shop. I'd love to get a hold of that sign if it's still in existence. It's just awesome. But as you can see, they were focusing, you know, these photos were focusing on the conditions of the street and the sidewalk. And there was no sidewalk. So this poor lady pushing her baby carriage is, you know, trudging through dirt. But that's what this series of photos was hoping to address. So, you know, pretty soon they will have sidewalks, but not yet. But we'll toggle one more time so you can see the buildings in the back. Hard to see because there's a lot of trees, but they really haven't changed all that much. Okay. Now, this is Cooper Avenue and 59th Street. So you can see there's a lot of, you know, siding that is not going to be on the buildings in 1926, but also missing the porches. So what I believe happened is that the street was widened at one point and the porches had to go. So there you have it. You see how narrow the sidewalk is now. And there was a lot more sidewalk back then. So the garden, everything had to go. There's a sign here advertising the Liberty Park homes. So this section of Glendale was known as Liberty Park. Now, why was it known as Liberty Park? Liberty Park was a picnic park, which was south of Cooper and west of Cypress Hill Street. In the early 1920s, it was sold to a developer who built 800 homes, most of which sold for $6,000 or less. So that's what this sign is advertising, is that these homes were for sale, in the process of being built or recently built and are for sale. Okay. Now we're at Cooper and 80th Avenues. So you can see the curve of the road. And some of these photos, unfortunately, I could not take from the same exact spot because I did not want to get hit by a car. So slightly different perspectives, but this one is pretty good. Okay, so then, now.
Oh, it's still automotive in that intersection.
As I said, the price of gas is more than $3 now, but back then it was 17 cents. And I believe it says for a fill-up. That's pretty cheap. It's not per gallon. It's for a complete full tank, right? So that means you probably were paying less than 17 cents when you pulled in. They're selling mobile oil. And this was also known as the Liberty Park Gasoline Service Station. So again, Liberty Park. That name over and over again was emphasized for this section of Glendale. Now, it's hard to see in this photo, but these pumps, really elaborate. I mean, it looks like up here, this top thing here looks like lampposts, fancy lampposts. And then there's sort of like lampposts here on each pump.
I probably indicated the brand of on those signs.
Sorry. Okay. This is 60th Street and Cooper Avenue. Okay, so.
Looking west or east?
We're still going in the same direction. We're going east.
East, okay.
So that's what it used to look like. Now, we're going to be following this corned beef truck for a couple of photos, but this particular photo I really liked. I actually had to go back. Now, you'll notice this was a pretty cloudy day, you know, kind of dreary. And then this is like blue skies, because I had to go back because I completely missed the section when I took the photo, I was in the wrong place. So I had to go back and retake this shot. But what I noticed was this is the only house that still has these stained glass windows. Whereas, you know, before, they all had them. Okay, so you have the cooked corned beef. He was making deliveries. And this is a sort of like a general store. I know it's hard to see with the tree here, and it's, you know, probably hard to read the signs, but I did make out some signs. It said they were advertising soap, prunes, and you can see the brooms here in the picture. Okay, Paul's joining.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Zantac back then, so prunes were more widely used.
Correct. I also, you know what? I missed something that I wanted to show you. So let me just go back. It's hard to see here, but there's a horse-drawn wagon here. Okay, so it's kind of an interesting contrast. You've got your horse-drawn wagon here next to a gas station, right? Obsolete versus the future. Okay. So it says this valuable store property is for sale, 6006 Cooper Avenue. Now, the other thing I noticed when I was going through these photos, as you can see here, there's an exchange listed. So Jefferson 1729. Well, usually an exchange is the first two letters. So that means there was only 6 numbers, unless exchanges were 3 letters back then. I don't know if anyone has any insight.
I do think there were 3-letter exchanges.
3-letter, okay, so JEF. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
Oh.
Sorry for the delay. I completely forgot.
That's okay.
And then I just woke up, so I apologize.
Oh, it's all right, Paul. So I was telling our friends here on the call, Richie and Donna, Salmon and Kevin Walsh, that you helped me tremendously in identifying the locations of these photos.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
So well, it was, you know, I'm pretty good at sleuthing these. I've been doing this for a long time, as you know. So it was, you know, when you sent this over, my response was, let me see what I can find. Especially it was the big mansion was the one that you first.
Well, we haven't gotten to the mansion yet, but
okay, sorry.
We're almost there.
Yeah. No, it's great. And these are great photos. And I think the big surprise is actually that, to me, that photo and looking at the existing buildings as they are today.
Right.
That's a real eye opener. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, Kevin, there's another lamppost here. So I think this is more of what
that was the standard issue that
right.
There were thousands and thousands of those used on telephone poles in all 5 boroughs. And they were in use up until I would say the 1950s.
Okay. All right. So now we are at 60th Lane and Cooper Avenue. Okay. Here's what it looks like today. And here's what it looked like back in 1926.
That's what A&P looked like back then.
Yes. So here's the cooked corned beef truck. He moved down the street. He delivered to this place. So this was interesting too. So you had a grocery store here and another grocery store right across the street. So you had options if you were living in Glendale in 1926 and you wanted to shop for groceries. Neither one looked like very big stores, but the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company was founded in 1859 and became the United States' first grocery chain. Between 1915 and 1975, it was the largest grocery chain. But in 2015, it had gone into bankruptcy and is now defunct. The A&P, as we knew it growing up. So I found it interesting. These cans were stacked here. I can't, you know, I'm sure there were little rapscallions running around Glendale at that time too. So I'm surprised they didn't knock them over, but Maybe they were better behaved than I think. Anyway, were you going to say something?
Yes, I was going to say the A&P where you watch your P's and Q's.
That's right. Yes, watch your P's and Q's.
That's right.
Now, you know, before we started the presentation, I was telling our other guests, Paul, that you thought these were older than 1926.
Yes.
Now, why do you think that?
Well, because I, of course, being the history nerd that we all, the history nerds that we all are, I am always cross-referencing. So I was looking at the aerial from, you know, the aerial map that the city has from 1924. And I was also looking at the Bromley Atlas of 1909 while I was looking at these photos. And there are certain features in the 1924 aerial, which, you know, they're saying that they're from 1926, but the 1924 aerial shows things already gone that these photos show are here. So there's no way they could be after 1924. They'd have to be before 1924. Right. So I think that they've been mistagged.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they're somewhere, they might be from 1923. They might be from 1921, but they're definitely not from 1926. Or at least some of them, some of them. And they also look like they're of slightly different vintage. I mean, if you look at the different photos, I mean, they could have all been taken at one time, but they may have been taken at different, there may be two different sets that were merged together. So some of them may be from a slightly different period. I don't know, but all I'm saying is clearly from some of the photos that I'm looking at based on the aerial, there's no way that they could be from 1926.
Okay. Thank you very much for explaining.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
There we go. 61st Street and Cooper Avenue. Okay, so here's what it looks like today. So, you know, I was kind of interested in this Matthews Flats looking building. Of course, I took it from the wrong side of the street, but that was really for my own safety. But I'll show you the 1926 version. Okay, now it really looks like a Matthews Flat building to me. A shorter version of it, but nonetheless. Now, what is here kind of tucked behind this garage in this Matthews Flat looking building is a Bohack Supermarket. It's hard to see, but that's what is on this corner. Also hard to see, I understand, is this little triangular building, which is on this triangle. Interesting because it says real estate. There's a sign here that says real estate, but up here it says Wyckoff Coal Company. And along the side, there's a sign that says coal. So I really don't know what was going on at this building, but the signs indicate that it was one or the other. I'm thinking it was probably a real estate office because if this is a coal company, then, you know, where's the coal? Right? And we're going to have a photo of a coal company later on in the presentation, but I'm just not really sure what this was. So it's another one of these mysteries that maybe one day we'll solve, but right now I can only offer what I see. Here, this is a commercial auto body shop, and these cans at the sidewalk were Vidal motor oil. So they may be at the curb because they were going to be recycled, picked up by the company and refilled or something, but that's what I'm guessing this is. Discarded empty cans. Okay. Well, what happened?
Huh.
I don't know what happened there.
What happened to that one?
I don't know. It didn't look like this last night.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, this is the today photo of 62nd Street in Cooper. And really what you want to do is, you know, keep your focus on this section here where the trees are.
From that angle, those one-way signs look
Yeah, a little
contradictory.
crazy. Yeah.
The one on top controls 62nd Street, and the one on the bottom controls Cooper Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And if you're coming in from the east, it's just telling traffic to keep right.
Okay, so as you can see, this building on the corner, pretty much the same. You can see the old address above the door. And going back to this photo, the address above this door is still there in stained glass. Okay, so these are more automotive businesses along this strip. I really had no idea that Cooper Avenue was like just car central back in the 1920s, but that's what it seemed like as I looked at the businesses that were along this street. So there's a Willard sign here. Willard refers to Willard car batteries. And I also thought this was interesting. The children here are probably either going to or coming from school. First time you see kids in any of these photos. But you can see clear down Cooper from this angle. Okay. This is 64th Place in Cooper, and over here is TD's Tavern today. Looks like more of that same style, Matthew Flat type style with the yellow brick. And this is what it looked like back in the 1920s. Now, you can see how muddy this was. So could you imagine a poor woman pushing a baby carriage, or, you know, kids going to school have to walk through mud, basically, because there were no sidewalks. The sidewalks started here, but weren't here yet. We're going to show this building, this mansion in the distance in the next set.
Christina, just let you know, and I'll just let these folks know again, oftentimes, just like today, the responsibility of the sidewalks were by the developers. So if the developer built those houses, they built the sidewalk, not the city.
Right.
That's why. And what you're looking at there is essentially an old house or an undeveloped property that, in fact, I think we already established that there was a road cut through there. There wasn't a road cut through there at that time, and that was part of this larger property. And so once if you go to the next picture, I think the previous picture. Yeah, if you see, there's that, I think that's one of the remaining freestanding houses on Cooper. So I think that's what that is. If you look, there's that fence. You can see the red brick pillars. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's what's going on there. So that's this property here. See, just throwing it out there.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, 65th Street.
Okay, here's where the magic happens. This is going to knock your socks off. Look at those houses on the right. My goodness.
Yeah. They've been sided over.
They've been queensized.
And you can see the street name is still the old street name here, Lotus Avenue. And
those are just to let you know, those are wood frame. Those are deliciously delicate wood frame houses, the kinds of which you see all over Boston. Actually, you don't see them in their original forms here almost ever. But that is a picture showing what that row would look like if it were to be restored. Yep. Amazing what we do to our architecture. Okay.
It's really great seeing it, because when you showed the picture at TD's Tavern, Donna grew up in the first house right next to TD's, before it was TD's.
Uh-huh. Okay, so yeah, there's more automotive businesses along here. In fact, I think these stores were empty at the time, and there's a bunch of bricks over here. So they were probably doing some work inside. But, you know, what really catches the eye in this photo is the presence of this mansion. Now, I had no idea what this was, who it belonged to, why it was there. So once again, I turned to Paul, who did some research, and it was the property of the Doty family, was it?
Yep.
Yeah. So I didn't see the actual house on any of the old maps, but that was the name on the property. I'm assuming this was a big house, not some other kind of, building, a school or whatnot. I think that's what this was, but
yeah, no, this was a private, what if you look at again, looking at the 1924 aerial, in the 1924 aerial, the house is gone.
Right.
So that's another clue that it's not from 1926. But prior to that, the properties on what is now Cypress Hill Street, which at that point was being called Fresh Pond Road still, I believe, if I'd have to refresh myself with that. But there are a number of small farms or estates, but farmland there that even in 1926, that farmland had just been purchased probably in the previous couple of years by the cemetery.
Right. So
they expanded into that property.
Mm-hmm. Mount Carmel Cemetery. And if you look at even today, the aerial view of Mount Carmel Cemetery, you can sort of see the boundary of where the private property was. Just by looking at the roads in the cemetery. So here is another one of those advertisements for the Liberty Park homes. They had billboards throughout. Okay. Okay, so Cooper Avenue and Cypress Hill Street. This is what it looks like today. And we're actually facing now back toward the west. So we're looking, here's those houses we were just discussing. Okay, you can see there's a gas station on this side, gas station on this side. Once again, very automotive centric. And that's exactly what it was back in 1939. So this is a different year, but along the same road. You can see they're doing construction work in the street.
And you can see those houses on the left are the same ones that were on the right, and they're still in their original forms.
Right.
They haven't been messed up yet.
Okay.
What is that name? Cool Mother?
Cool Motor.
Cool Motor.
Yeah.
Cool Motor. It's all lubrication.
I wish I had that sign.
I don't know where you'd put it.
And then it says the perfect Pennsylvania oil.
Yes. Yeah, I was wildly entertained by some of the language on these signs from the 1920s.
Right. So this is a DOT or borough president photo because it has the the clear indications of that on the lower right hand.
I think these pictures were shot primarily to illustrate street pavement.
Yes.
Okay, now this is my favorite then and now of the whole series.
All right.
Okay, now unfortunately, I could not get a good shot of this, so I had to steal this photo from Google Street View.
Oh, I've done that. No sin in that. I've done that.
Well, I mean, I don't normally stand in the middle of the street when the light's green, so
yeah.
I counted on that good old Google truck to do that. But anyway, this is the current view from 65th Street and Myrtle Avenue. Okay, so you can see the businesses that are there. This is actually a lot calmer than it usually is because when I visited this intersection, the traffic was crazy. And that was part of the reason I couldn't really get a good shot. But
it's really usually nuts along Myrtle.
Yeah, but this is actually very orderly, I think. I mean, there's no double parked cars or anything here. But wait till you see it in 1946. Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like a free-for-all here.
That's a great wheelie stoplight there.
Yep. So that was, I think, the first thing that jumps out at you. First of all, there's only two options. There's no yellow, I guess. There's only red and green.
Well, they turned both of them on for caution.
I see. And yeah, the wheel here.
Yeah.
Now look at this.
Yeah, Bishop Crook street lamps.
But then you've got this.
And we call those Corvingtons.
Okay, now I believe, now you can tell me if I am right or wrong, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, keep your eye on those. I think they're still there.
No, Christina, those are
replicas.
Faithful replicas.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't they put the Bishop Crooks back? Those are nicer.
Because because I agree with you, but this is a DOT thing. They have rarely put those smaller ones because they're looking for, yes, they're willing to do something to help match, but they're more interested in illumination. And the Bishop Crooks are, because they're very close to the sidewalk, they don't illuminate the street the same way.
Okay.
And yes, this has been a discussion. I've actually sat in on some of these meetings with DOT because they're looking, they're like, yeah, we'll put those in, but no, we're not going to put, again, they'll do it occasionally, but really they consider the ones that go over the street to be of highway grade.
Yes.
And that's what they're looking for illumination.
Okay. All right. Well, there's actually a lot to unpack in this photo.
Okay.
So we'll start, I guess I'll start from left to right. So we've got a furniture store here. And this truck belongs to that furniture store. It's the Bernard Furniture Company. There's a sign for a trolley stop on both sides of the street, right? And as we go down, this is bedding and linoleum. And you probably cannot see this, but way in the distance is the Belvedere movie theater.
Okay.
So 1946, if you zoom in, you can actually see the marquee and what was playing. So it says Lana Turner in The Postman Always Rings Twice and The Sheriff of Redwood Valley on this.
I've seen the first, not the second.
Okay. The trolley heading east, on top it says Richmond Hill. Okay, and then there's another trolley heading in the opposite direction. You can also see this track, railroad track, which today is the CSX line. Okay, now we're migrating over to the other side of the street. Here is Jack Shea's Bar and Grill with a Trommer's beer barrel truck making a delivery. Now we're crossing over here. I know it's probably impossible to read any of these signs, but we have a pharmacy, a fruit stand. Pharmacy and a fruit stand. I could not read the words on here, but that's what you have on these two. So yeah, this was where you went to shop. Everything was in one place. 1946. Now I have a trivia question for Richie and Donna, if they so choose to take on the challenge. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
We're ready.
Okay.
I see them.
Okay. So what famous ball player?
Too easy.
I know. Well, you're probably going to answer it already, but who do you think I'm talking about?
Rizzuto.
Rizzuto.
Even I knew it.
Yeah.
And do you know what Rizzuto's father did?
That I do not know.
He drove this trolley.
Oh,
Really?
cool.
Yes. So I was interested in, thinking about trying to get that corner where he grew up co-named sort of like we're doing with the Nearest Tavern co-naming.
Right.
You know, so I looked into his history, and I bought a bunch of books, biography books about Phil Rizzuto. And it said that his father drove the Myrtle Avenue trolley.
Right.
So,
And he was from Drum. He lived in Drum Park, correct? Over that way.
yes. Yep.
I thought.
He, I have a photo of it, but maybe I'll try to pull it up at the end of this. But he grew up in Glendale. He went to school over in Richmond Hill, I believe, high school. And, you know, he rode this trolley all the time, and his father drove it and was a motorman, I believe, even up until well into Rizzuto's career. So he retired while Rizzuto was playing baseball.
That's pretty cool. We were just like, when we were muted, I was saying to Donna that you said the trolley, you know, says Richmond Hill. I'm wondering if it went all the way to like Jamaica Avenue where the bus goes now.
Yeah. Most of the...
Right now it's the 55, the Q55.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Most of the bus lines took over the routes of trolley lines.
Wow. Because that's a long ride for a trolley.
Yeah. But that's how they did it. They really just designed the bus system based on the trolley system.
Same way. Okay.
Okay. But I mean, the clarity of this photo, it's just amazing. And all the details you can make out if you have a...
And where did you obtain that photo?
This is from eBay.
eBay. Okay.
eBay. All of these pretty much are from eBay. There might be a couple that I got elsewhere, but when I see them posted, I grab them. Okay, this is not a very interesting photo. We are, this is actually Otto Road at 66th Place. Now, why did I take this? Well, it sort of lines up with that. Okay. Now, Otto Road is not Edsel. Edsel is now 70th Avenue. So this was actually taken from 70th, at what's today is 70th Avenue, and Hooker Street, which is now 66th Place. But so the road where the fitness place is probably more along here. But what I wanted to show you, this is the train yard, the Glendale train yard back here. So you can kind of see the cars, and you can see the poles along the route. But yeah, it was an ash dump, which a lot of Queens was. You had to put your refuse somewhere, so they just dumped it nearby. But yes, this was, you know, later developed into this and the homes, which would be closer. But yeah, from that to a fully developed neighborhood. Okay, this is 70th Avenue and 66th Street. These are 6-family row houses known as Ivanhoe Park. So Ivanhoe Park was named after a brand of tobacco that was grown by Henry Meyer. Okay, he marketed his tobacco under the Ivanhoe brand and became wealthy. So when he became wealthy off of the tobacco, he bought up all this land in Glendale and created a giant estate. Well, when he passed away, his son sold it as real estate, but kept the name Ivanhoe. So what I noticed here, first of all, this is, the street is actually next to the building. So it's almost like you're taking it from a good block away. But these kids are lined up here, I guess, to play in the snow. There's an old jalopy here that kind of fell apart and is all graffitied in the middle. And a wagon. So this is how kids, had fun back in the day. But this is also from 1926. can see here, different set of photos than the Cooper Avenue, but 1926. And this is probably accurate on this photo, 1926. Now, unfortunately, this junk truck, I would have liked to not have in the photo, but hey, that's the modern day depiction. So let's go with it, right? So this is, we're looking down 67th Street at 70th Avenue. Okay, and that's what it looked like back then. So yeah, this entire block in the foreground was not developed yet. It's an interesting old car here. But yeah, if I had taken it from any further back, you wouldn't even have been able to see this much detail on the side of these houses because there's other buildings now.
Christina.
Yes.
I think you need to invest in a drone.
Well, then I'd have an aerial view. I don't really want that.
Well, no, but you could be hovering at 20 feet up and it would give you a slightly skewed view, but at least you'd get a little more. I mean, come on.
I need a jetpack then.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. I did find it interesting though. A lot of these people, I love windows, but a lot of other people seem to not like them and they board them up and I don't know.
What I can tell you is that oftentimes, because I this is not that uncommon. It's not that they don't like windows; it's that you don't know what they're using with the interior space. Mm-hmm. So if you remember my house, when I bought it a decade ago, if you remember the front porch room, the glazed porch, there used to be 10 windows, and 8 of them had been, well, actually, all of them had been cemented up. Yeah. By the owner. And by the way, the owner of the house and Kevin and the other 2 folks here, they don't know, but the owner of the house lived here from age 9 to 95, and his father and grandfather built the house. So mm-hmm. It's not like they were new owners who came in and made changes. It was the same family that made the changes. And he had turned that front room into a bedroom for his mother or mother-in-law after she had a stroke. So instead of just putting up wood and putting wallboard up, he literally put cement blocks and cemented up the entire room and left 3 tiny windows in the front porch. And I actually took a sledgehammer and knocked out all of that stuff and restored those 10 windows there. So my point is, people have interior uses that you can't see from the outside. Maybe they turned it into a closet. Maybe they turned it into a bathroom. Maybe, you just don't know.
Yeah.
That's all.
I know, but I like light.
I do too. Believe me, I get it. I'm just telling you.
Okay. All right. We were chatting before Paul came on, actually before this presentation started. I took a photo that I thought lined up with the photo you're about to see. And it turned out I took it in the wrong direction. So again, I had to go back to Google Street View and sort of get the right perspective. But what I wanted to emphasize were these little bungalow houses here, because I thought it was kind of interesting that they're still there, because they were here back in 1966 as well. And I don't know how old they are, but
they're old, and they had a different layer of siding, which is still there under the current layer of siding.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So in this view, we are looking west. Okay, so we're looking toward Long Island City down the...
What's the cross street?
This
73rd place.
All right, 73rd Street and the Long Island Railroad.
73rd place, actually.
Okay. I'm not sure, but this is behind the Lutheran Cemetery. So if you
you're right, Christina. It's 73rd Street, because that goes to the All Faith Cemetery.
Correct.
Entrance.
So Paul, if you go down this street, cross the railroad and keep going this way, you'll be in Lutheran Cemetery.
Okay, so 73rd Street, and I'm sorry, and what's the say it again, 73rd Street and?
The Long Island Railroad.
73rd Street and the Long Island Railroad. I just want to double check something because I can tell you very quickly. 73rd Street, and there's Mount Olivet. Okay, Lutheran, got it. 73rd, okay, 73rd Street. 73rd Street. 73rd Street.
Yes.
Okay, Edsel.
Yes. So the Edsel is where the bungalows are.
Yes. Okay, got it. Okay, there was a reason I asked. So,
But anyway, while Paul's looking up whatever he wants to tell us, there's 2 engines here back to back, looks like. And these are pretty serious machines.
absolutely.
And
of course, in 66, they were still doing passenger trains along those tracks.
right. So yes, and it was 1998 when this station, which there is no
was closed.
platform. There's no platform. It's just you stand in this dirt space. When they stopped servicing this station. Okay, so we are now at 80th Street and Cooper Avenue. And this, of all of the photos that I had, this one drove me the most nuts. Why? Well, let's take a look at the Today photo. So we have what is now the Atlas Park Mall here. This is also part of the Atlas Park Mall. But this was an old building from the Atlas Park Terminal, which came before the mall. Here is the overpass over the Long Island Railroad along 80th Street. This is Cooper Avenue. And here are some homes. Well, this is what it looked like back in 1926. Now, as you can see, how narrow is Cooper here? 80th Street was extremely narrow. It looks like it might have been a dirt road still at that point.
I don't think it was paved, even though you had a factory there. Yeah.
But I just got this photo like this with really no explanation of where it was. I knew this was the Atlas Park Water Tower. I knew this was a building in Atlas Park, but I could not figure out for the life of me where this was because I was so thrown off by the streets, I think, that I had to ask Paul, like, where is this? And like within 5 minutes, he's like, oh yeah, it's 80th and Cooper. And I'm like, what?
Well, you know what it is. Also, the building is still there. Like both.
I know that, but it just, this really threw. I thought 80th Street was much more developed at this point, but apparently it wasn't.
Just back to the previous photo. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I went to the 1909. No, the previous one by the railroad. So I went to the Bromley, and those houses are there.
And so that's 1909.
1909. Yeah.
Okay.
Just wanted to give it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought like such a. It fooled me. I mean, I could not figure this out. And Kevin, do you know when this overpass was built?
Oh, I don't. But in the old photo, 80th Street was still crossing.
Correct.
At grade.
Yeah. So, yep.
It was. I believe it was. Well, I believe it was built in the 30s or 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was part of the main. The Moses highwayization of Queens. Same thing. If you look at Woodhaven Boulevard. And you look at Woodhaven Boulevard, particularly in the northern part of Woodhaven, where right near the park, where you have those fairly substantial Victorian homes on Woodhaven Boulevard, you'll notice on one side of the street, the homes face Woodhaven Boulevard on the west side of the street, but on the east side of the street, they face the street because they demolished about 125 or 100 feet at least of the houses that were there in order to make it this, 10-lane monster road.
Right.
So, and it was already a very wide road, but that made it even, much even bigger. So yes, this is very typical road work stuff that, again, I'm not sure if it's before the war or after the war. So it could be in the 30s during the Depression, or more likely after the war, but right after the war.
Okay.
That's my guess. It's definitely there in 1951. Again, looking at the aerial. So in the aerial, it's there.
All right, so we have the same corner from a different direction. So it's the same house. I don't know what these streaks are across my photos here, but.
And the foreground is 80th.
Yes, this is 80th with the turn lane here. And this, where these houses are, is Cooper. Now we're gonna go to the old times. So again, doesn't look like it's paved here. It's just a big dirt area on the sidewalk. And here is empty. So they were selling land. And this sign says, for sale, August Weber Jr., Springfield Boulevard, Queens Village. So you had a realtor or a landowner from, a bit of ways selling, not a local. But it was all open, and now we've got a nice row of houses. Okay, now this was a Paul Graziano special as well. This was from a couple of years ago, right?
Yep.
So
yep. I remember it.
I got this postcard and I said, Paul, I don't know where the heck was this, and again, like within 5 minutes, he's like, oh, I know exactly where this is. And it's still there. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Well, here's the postcard. So J. George Weber's Park Hotel, 34 Nichols Avenue, near Woodhaven Avenue, Glendale Park, Long Island. So looks like a pretty spacious hotel. Now it is a residence, but it is still there. And shockingly, there's no big building next to it. It's still an open yard. But this is 83rd Avenue. So this building here next to it is, it used to be First Med, but now it's Emu Health on the corner. And then this is next to it. But yeah, I had no idea. But Paul figured it out. So once again, thank you very much.
I can tell you why, because that's right near where my wife used to live. And she lived in the Forest Park Co-ops in Woodhaven. And this is just a few blocks north of there. And I would pass it every single time I was there, which, as you know, I'm married to her, so I was there a lot. And so when you sent me that postcard, I was like, I think I know where that is. And that's why I knew it, because yeah.
You are a well-traveled man.
Well, that part of my business. And also, if you notice, it says near Woodhaven Avenue.
Right.
So that was kind of a tip off. But even without that, I looked at the house and I was like, I think I know where that is. Yeah. So, yep.
Well, I mean, I think this might be the proprietor of the hotel standing here on the porch.
That could be, yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I love it. And I just took this photo like a couple of days ago, and this big red bow I love it.
And notice the Crescent Towers or whatever that is behind there.
Yeah.
That's on Trotting Course Lane, or what's left of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Huh. All right. We are looking toward Forest Park on the dead end of 89th Street and Myrtle.
Oh, yeah.
So this side is now a health clinic. This side is, I think it's a daycare, Little Wonders. But back in the day, 1952, you can still see there's trolley tracks. Not really sure what was here. Looks like just a parking lot. But yes, it still dead ends up to Forest Park. There's a Chevrolet billboard in this lot before this preschool building was built, but these houses are all still there.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yes, this is now on this is the block right before Woodhaven Boulevard. And on Woodhaven Boulevard, the corner is the former bank, which is now vacant, but next to it is your what's it called? The Mexican place that just opened a few years ago that you've been to. Yes. Yep. Which has nice neon.
Don Luis, right?
Don, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Okay, this is actually the final photo in this presentation. Technically not Glendale, but right on the other side of the railroad from Glendale. This is now called Glen Ridge Mews. And it's a condominium, okay? But it doesn't look like your typical condominium. So why is that? Well, first of all, it's at Cypress Hill Street and 71st Avenue. The previous iteration was a coal and ice plant.
Oh my goodness.
This is the Philip Dietz Coal and Ice Plant.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I was very impressed at how true to the original building they were. I mean, they got rid of these big containers back here. Obviously, they're not needed, but yeah, otherwise, all of these buildings are still intact. So this Philip Dietz Coal and Ice, it was in business from 1905 into the 1950s, and it became condos in the 1980s. This photo is from 1934. So you can see the name is here etched on the windows. Coal. And behind the building was an actual elevated siding for the railroad to pull in.
Oh, wow.
And the supports are still there. So if you drive past this, you can see the supports behind this building. Right? Philip Dietz Coal Company. And here's the ice plant. So naturally, you know, once refrigerators became pretty standard, you didn't need big chunks of ice anymore. And, you know, coal fell out of favor as well for heating. So it got reborn as condos.
A happy ending.
Well, thank you very much for attending our presentation. If you enjoyed this presentation, please donate to us. There is the link to donate. We are a 501c3 organization. All donations are 100% tax deductible, and the membership form may be found at newtownhistorical.org.